You're listening to the AID Network.
Hey friends, today's episode is brought to you by my friend Grizzly Wheeler, who's got a fantastic deal for the entire month of November for Adventures in Design listeners. For the entire month, you can get 100 patches for just $2 each. These patches can be up to 6 inches square and up to 6 different colors. Our good buddy, OK Pants, Aaron Seacrest, you love him. He's one of the favorites here on Adventures in Design. He just did this for one of his clients, Live Large, the gym that he does all the branding for. Nice die cut, black and white patch, look fantastic. And remember, reaching out to your clients with products and services is a great way to reopen the communication, maybe get a little extra work, and maybe mark up a little for you. Tell your client, I can get a patch done of that sweet logo we did back in April, and it's only going to cost you $4 each. See what I just did there? I marked it up for you. Head over to grizzlywheeler.com. Reach out to the man himself and get that sweet Adventures in Design deal for the entire month of November. That's $2 per patch when you get 100, up to 6 inches and up to 6 colors. Tell the bear that Bricky sent you. grizzlywheeler.com. I need a favor from each and every single one of you. It seems that podcasting's become pretty popular, and old man Bricky's been slugging away since 2012. If you're a Circle of Trust member, or especially if you're a free listener, hook me up, I'm hooking you up. Could you please go into iTunes? Could you go into your podcast app through Apple? And could you give the show a 5-star rating? Could you please give us a very positive review? And could you also make sure that you are subscribed to Adventures in Design, the oldest and only daily talk show for creatives just like you? Come on, give me them stars. Give me them reviews. Take a screenshot, send it over to me, and you'll be entered in a contest to win one of our Black Friday giveaways for this here month of November. I would appreciate you letting the world know that Adventures in Design is the original OG of podcasting for the world of design, and the best ones at putting a personality to it. Please head over to iTunes, rate, review, and subscribe to the show today. And for that, I say thank you. Thank you very much. Before we get started with today's show with Elise Crigar, I want to tell you a little quick story. You remember when your mom would say, no, if I give you one, I got to give one to everybody. And if you take a gift to somebody at school, then everybody at school needs to get one. Well, I had a listener who signed up to the Circle of Trust, and he reached out to me, wrote me a really nice letter, and I put it on stories, and I said, hey, Carl, thanks a lot for signing up. It's just one of those things just to let people that don't pay for the show know that there are people that do pay for it, kind of like a cool guilt trip I was trying to lay down. And then I get this message from this real nice Circle of Trust member at vigilante.design. That's visual, right? And then ANTE.design. See these screen names, these CB names. I don't know. Is it Vigilante or Visual Auntie? Maybe she's a visual aunt. Maybe she's super proud to be an aunt. But she wrote in and said, if I cancel my subscription, then sign back up, do I still get a shout out? Holly, what are you talking? No, don't ever cancel your subscription. If you want to get a shout out, Holly, just sign up again, right? Get a second one. So I'm encouraging everybody, get a second Circle of Trust subscription and say, this one I want my shout on, because Holly, if I tell everybody to follow at vigilante.design over on Instagram, where they can see photos of all the cool work that you do, how you're into punk, how you're into making t-shirts, how you're an illustrator, how you make your own brand. If I tell everybody to go follow you at vigilante.design over on Instagram, because your name's Holly, and because you're sweet, and because you're from Bristol, and we love our British listeners, assuming that's where Bristol is. I think that sounds about right. But if I do that for you, Holly, then my Lord, I would have to do it for everyone. So, Holly, I'm so sorry that I can't tell the world to go look at you over on Instagram at vigilante.design, and I definitely cannot tell people to go to your website, which is doubleollie.com. I 100% cannot tell people to do that. So if you write in and you're a Circle of Trust member like Holly at vigilante.design, I'm sorry, I cannot tell people your Instagram account. I cannot tell people that your website is doubleollie.com. I just cannot tell people to go follow you because you look rad and like you're doing really fun stuff. I cannot do that. I cannot endorse it. So I apologize to Holly at Vigilante. Oh, like vigilante, but she's a vigilante. She's fighting crime through artwork. Too bad no one will ever know because I cannot tell the world to follow her at Instagram. I'm exhausted already and the show hasn't even begun.
Coming to you live from the Saul Rosenberg Studios, broadcasting worldwide into all ships at sea, here comes another action-packed episode of Adventures in Design.
Good morning and good design. Are you ready to drop in? Are you ready to kick turn? Are you ready to do a small ollie but strive to get higher and higher and higher? On the show today, feminist skateboarder, and my new friend, Elise Crigar, is on the show. We talk all about skateboarding and all about being a badass broad. On today's Adventures in Design, I'm your host, Mark Bricky. What do you say we get started with AID 800 and can't even count anymore. Hey friends, how are you? Welcome to another Adventures in Design. You know, the best thing about living long enough is that you get to see a lot of things change. And one of the things I've gotten to see change, and it excites me, is the empowerment of our partners on planet Earth. I'm talking about the ladies, talking about the one that pulled the apple off the tree and said, Adam, doesn't this apple look delicious? Why, yes, it does, Eve. But we were given one rule. But I love the fact that this week we saw more women than ever got elected into office. And in fact, when I was voting, I said, I'm going to vote for anybody who looks like they're a lady or has a name that looks like they might not have been always from America. I want change. I like people that are different than me. I like to see the world look diverse. I like to see different people doing different things. So not only are we living in a moment where so many women have just marched right into the politics and said, enough of this bullshit. We have a voice. We are capable of doing anything that anybody else is doing. Avi, we're here. We're not queer. Well, maybe some of them are, but we're here to stay and we're going to take over. And I absolutely loved it. That was the positive that I was able to take away from election night. And I hope you voted. And if you did it, shame on you. Shame, shame, shame. But one of the other things that I've been able to see throughout my long years on planet Earth is a self-confidence of today's woman going into things that just were unheard of when I was a younger guy. Today I'm going to talk to Elise Crigar, who's a photographer. She is a social media influencer, and she's a graphic designer illustrator. But most importantly to me, she's a skateboarder. And even more important, she's a female skateboarder. And if you go over to her Instagram, which is Elise_Crigar, that's Crigar, you can look at what feels like the brochure for feminism, for feminine skateboarding, and the brochure to great California living. She contacted me through the show, commented on something. I'd trace back to say, oh, who's saying something nice, like I like to do. And when I looked into her world, I saw a world that was a fantasy of mine from the age of 10, 13, 15. And I'm not using the word fantasy in a sexual manner, but a fantasy of when I was a kid, I just wanted to have like girlfriends, friends that were girls, no benefits other than the friendship that I could skateboard with. And it always irritated me. It irritated me that I saw this in my little sister who I adore. And it irritated me that I saw this in all the girls in my neighborhood and at my elementary school, at my middle school, and my high school, that there were just things that they said, I can't do that. I don't do that. Girls don't do that. And I was irritated about a world of, I like pink makeup and whatever will help me get boys. It aggravated me because I wanted to have all kinds of different friends that I could do different things with. And I thought that the idea of being able to skate together and hang out and listen to the same music and be into the same music, I didn't want it to be gender specific, right? Like so if I'm around this girl, then we can't skateboard. We got to just like order in a pizza and watch a movie on cable. Why can't we go out and skate away till the fucking sun goes down and have a good time? And I have to admit, I heard I don't so much from girls growing up that I let it get into my mind. And I'm embarrassed to say that for the first while that we did this podcast, I didn't interview a lot of women. And it was partially because that when I reached out to a lot of women, I got weird answers back like, I don't like my voice, I don't have anything to say, who cares what I think, which is all stupid because who cares what the guys think? Guys are just so dumb and just so full of ego that they'll, yeah, put me in, coach, even though they probably have nothing to say. But that frustrated me. And there's also an attitude on this show of busting balls and hanging out and having a good time. And I was often worried, how would that translate to a female guest? But as the years have gone by, I've kind of figured out the rhythm a little bit better. And I think that I've done a much better job at having ladies on the show. And I never said no because I didn't think that they were worthy or couldn't handle it. I just didn't always pursue it properly because I was worried about, in this world, how would it look if I came off rude or if I treated them just as rough as I treated the guys on the show. And then there was also just the complete honesty is that a lot of women that are your heroes that you've requested on the show, they just told me no. They weren't interested. They didn't want to do it. And maybe that's my fault for making such a bro environment. Nonetheless, I'm excited to talk to Elise today, and I'm excited that I feel comfortable now talking to anyone. I feel like I finally got in enough air miles where I know how to sit across from anybody, hang with them, speak what we have in common, and not let those society things get in the way. And I believe it's because I feel like you and I, the listener, right? We know each other well enough that you know my sense of humor, you know my adoration for sarcasm. I don't know if I used that word right. I'm not editing it out because I got to get out of here. But I think that there's just like a trust now, and if somebody comes on the show and they don't get it, I know that you do. And I also know that you would know that I'm not being rude. And I think that I've also displayed my character long enough to where if something falls flat, you understand what's going on. And I don't have to panic that everybody's going to get mad because I was just mean to the female guest. That all aside, I dream of a day when I can have someone like Elise on the show and we can just talk about skateboarding, photography, and design and the positive aspects of social media. But unfortunately, we are still in a moment in time where having her on the show, we need to talk about her as a feminist. And we need to talk about the projects that she's been involved in. I would encourage you that if you get a moment, you should check out It's Not About Pretty, which is a book that she worked on. It's the first ever book that is all about females in the world of skateboarding. It was done with a famous first generation pro skateboarder who wrote the book, and our girl Elise. Did I just make a mistake saying our girl? No, because I'd say our boy Tavo, our boy little Mikey Hammer, our boy little Billy Ballman, our lady Elise did the design for it, and that got her down a path of thinking about how she could use skateboarding, how she could use her abilities, not only to cover the things that she loves, but the idea that the woman is capable of doing it all, just like anybody else. And to many of us, of course. But when you listen to today's show, you'll realize that not everybody sees it like you and I do. Not everybody understands that it is an equal opportunity environment we live in for race and, of course, gender. She created a new project that is called She Is More. And I discovered this project. I really, really like the idea of it. So if you're a Circle of Trust member and you keep listening today, there's going to be a couple of these that happen throughout the holiday season. This is going to be one of my first holiday podprosals. Podprosal. Damn it. In my mind, I thought I could get the word podcasting and proposal together. Podposal. So one of my first podposals happens on today's show when I ask Elise, will she say, I do podcast with you? That's coming up for Circle of Trust members. But right now, let's get started with the interview. Do yourself a favor. Head over to Elise_Crigar on Instagram, or go to her website, which is EliseCrigar.net, and look at her world. It's pretty fascinating, the world that she's put together of skateboarding, of California culture, and positivity for young women. If you are a dad or a mom and you have a daughter, or like me, you have a couple of young nieces, think about picking up a copy of It's Not About Pretty, and think about that positive message of, hey, you can be anything you want. You don't have to worry about being pretty while you're doing it. You are so much more than that. You are someone that is capable of dropping in. You are someone that is capable of frontside and backside airs. And if you get that far, well, congratulations. You're someone who's capable more than what I could ever do. I can't go above the coping, and it irritates me. But you know what doesn't? Hanging out with my new bud, Elise Crigar, right now on Adventures in Design.
Good. Thank you for having me.
I always say this. There's always like a guy that gets you on the path, right? And when I say guy or I say dude or what's up, guys, like to me, those are all just like gender neutral, because it's hard to say. There's always a they that got you on the path in life. But for you, let's get gender specific. Was there a guy or was there a gal that got you on the path in life? Like the world of skateboarding, art, the subculture, extreme sports. Like, who do you point back to as that was the person that you looked at them and said, what they're doing, I want to be a part of?
So I didn't start skating until after high school and early years of college.
You missed out on some really good years of your body being able to recover really, really quickly.
Totally.
I mean, you missed out on the best healing years of your life.
I know. And like being not scared also.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we'll get into that later. Skateboarding does give you a different view on what's scary and what's not scary. Because keep in mind, like 90% of the population doesn't even know how to stand on a skateboard, much less go down a hill at an insane speeds and in your way look stylish while doing it. So you got into it later in life, like in college, but who did, like, you always have to see it somewhere. Like, you just didn't walk down the aisle of Toys R Us and go, I think I want to buy this board and go get wicked. Like, who put you on that path?
So I hung out with a group of friends that were pretty much all guys, and they all skated. And I was always with them, and they were always doing it. And it just got to the point where I was just sick of watching them, and I just wanted to try it for myself.
Yeah.
So taking that on, I was the only girl in a group of, 8 guys. And a lot of them told me not to do it.
Oh,
they
what
told
dickheads?
Me that girls didn't need to learn how to drop in.
Okay. I need 8 names. I got 8 young men that I need to talk to right now. Why would they say that?
Because they were young boys. I don't know.
I never felt that way when I was a young boy. I was always like, hey, you want to go skateboard with me? And the girls in my neighborhood would be like, no, why would we do that? I'm like, because it's fun.
So
I don't
fun.
Understand that.
Yeah, they told me that, it was okay. Like, when I was trying to learn to drop in, they would say, just climb in. Like, you're a girl. It's okay. Like, it's cool for girls to start at the bottom. Like, you don't need to learn to drop in.
But see, those are the same boys that thought girls had cooties. And I've never seen the world that way. Like, I've never literally looked at a girl as less than, or, oh, you can't do this. Like, I don't understand where that comes from. So it always puzzles me. Like, I would be like, all right, maybe you should start in the transitions. Like dropping in is pretty gnarly. But I also told that to my nephew, who's, a 10-year-old boy who want to get into skateboard. I'm like, yo, Noah, let's start in the flat bottom. You start from the bottom and you work your way. But I wouldn't say, to my niece Tegan, I'd say the same thing. I wouldn't say, you can't drop in, you're a chick.
Yeah.
I'd be like, let's work our way to the coping.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's nuts. So how long did you hang out with them before you decided to get in?
Right. I had kind of like grown up with them, but
Years?
A couple years.
A couple years of hanging around skateboards.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever do the stand on it and hold on to somebody and be like, whoa?
Kind of. But after they said that to me and I knew I wanted to do it, it really just pissed me off and
Rightfully so.
made me want to do it even more.
Rightfully so.
Shortly after that, I moved away to go to college and I was kind of on my own, like didn't have a group of friends or anything yet, had just moved to a new place and there's a really nice skate park there and that's kind of like where it all started.
Where is that at in Florida?
St. Augustine,
St. Augustine, Florida. Mm-hmm. So you go to a public skate park, concrete?
Yep.
And you're like, this looks fun. I've been around skateboarders for the last handful of years. And so did you buy a board or just bum one like a smoke off of somebody?
I had bummed one for a while, but then by that time I had bought one and put it together.
So walk me through this. The first time you go to a skate park, are you by yourself or do you have somebody with you?
When I had moved and I was going to that new one, I was by myself.
It's pretty bold. It's pretty bold.
Yeah.
Because it was probably covered in dudes. Mm-hmm. And your track record is guys telling you that you can't do it. So what was that like walking up to the course with your board in your hand being like, fuck? Like what was going through your mind? Because I remember, like, I am a guy, newsflash, and I remember going into the skate shop and being like, I really hope that the other skateboarder kids accept me. And I really hope that they don't make fun of me. And I know that I don't have the best shoes on. I know that my deck isn't like I knew that I was less than.
Hard, yeah.
And I went in like really with an emotional like guard on. How was it for you?
Dude, I remember sitting in my bed in my dorm room and just like debating, like, I know I want to skate, like, I know I need to go, but it's like, I don't have a group of friends to go with it anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just mentally, just like being like, Elise, like, you want to go skate, like, you need to just go. And like, I would go at night, kind of like when there wasn't as many people and stuff like that. So yeah, it was definitely
I'm no stranger getting to the skate park at like sunrise.
Yeah.
Like, if I go there,
I still do that. Yeah.
When you're old, it's the best time to go. That's when I do go.
It's peaceful.
All right, so you get the strength to go into a completely male-dominated area. What was it like the first couple of days? Like, what did you do? Just kind of like push around? Did you ride any of the transitions? Like, what did you get accomplished the first couple of weeks?
Before I had moved, I had already learned to drop in, so I had that.
Fuck.
And I was just kind of cruising around, and that park, it's still one of my favorites, but it's huge, super open space and stuff like that. So I kind of just did like what I felt comfortable with. And I feel like you can go, it takes a couple times to just go and like get your own lines down and like feel good. And then just kind of start trying new things and stuff like that.
People have seen on TV commercials and content on TV and in movies and stuff, they see all the big stunts. And I'm sure it is amazing to be Tony Hawk and to know what it's like to soar, 12 feet above the coping and the board's flipping around and you're spinning around and you always find a way back on the vert wall to make it to the other side. But aside from that is like, 0.5% of the sport, like people don't understand just what an incredible feeling it is just riding the concrete waves. Just doing the kick turns and the coping when you're older is not always your friend because that's when bad things happen. And for those of you who don't know, the coping is when you get to the very top of the transition where it meets, the area where you would drop in. But just riding a half pipe or riding a course and just kind of cruising around. And in your mind, maybe you're pretending that you're doing all those big aerial maneuvers, but there is something that is I find it to be peaceful. I find it to be a complete body workout. Like people have no idea how much it works your core.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of what we call the pumping, like where you sort of like you crouch down and then you stand up. And what you're basically doing is you're using the center of your human to like create this force that makes the board, go along with the concrete wave. So I got to explain all this for people that have never done what you and I've done. But to me, it's one of the most freeing things that I've ever done. And when I get out there and I skate, I guess it's exercise, but it never feels like a chore, and it's freeing. So when you're doing that and you're having a good time, did you start slowly meeting people and forming friends? And I bet these friends were a little bit different because they saw you as the girl that could drop in.
Right. Yes.
So it was a whole different relationship, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I did definitely meet new friends, and I started working at a surf shop, skate shop, which really helped me meet, all the local skaters,
right.
And definitely made a new little group, and it was great.
Did you bump into any women organically during these times?
So it took about a year of me kind of, being in college and doing that. And then one day I did.
Yes.
And she said she liked my socks. And we just started talking.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah,
to get
it was awesome. Yeah.
Are you still friends with her?
Yes.
Awesome. Yep. Awesome. I didn't want this to be one of those catty, no.
Oh my gosh, no.
Steph's not my friend anymore.
No.
So you meet, and was this the first female skateboarder that you'd ever met?
Yeah.
It's kind of unbelievable that you hung out with your old friends for a few years. You're now submerged in the sport, working at a shop, going to the skate park. You got your own setup. It took you probably monkey math 3 to 5 years before you met somebody that had the same interests as you, but same gender, which is wild.
Yeah.
I want to talk about it later. I would love to theorize with you why women tell themselves no. I have a couple theories, but you probably know more than me because you are a woman. But getting back to that sort of awkward of finding the sport, what were you going to school for?
Graphic design.
Mm-hmm. So obviously you found the world of art and creativity before you found skateboarding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For me, it was kind of the other way around. I remember looking at Thrasher magazine, and every page was at the same level of intensity for me. It's where I found the love of advertising and marketing, because there was literally no difference in looking at the Powell Peralta or Santa Cruz ad than looking at the article about that year's best amateur or who won the big NSA contest. And it blurred the lines for me that content and advertising and marketing could all be the same. It could all be treated at the same level of importance, which is kind of fascinating to find that in 1986, when that's what the world has evolved into, which is part of my theory, is that skateboarding is always where the evolution of everything in pop culture comes from. But for you, doing it the opposite of me, I'm very curious. When you got into the world of skateboarding and you started looking at the graphics and sort of the marketing campaigns, how did that change your view of the world of graphic design and photography and illustration?
It's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I had grown up always around art, my mom and everything, and always making things with my hands, and just always all over the place, ripping stuff up, painting, taking photos. And then as soon as I started, falling in love with skating, and then after that, falling in love with girls in skating, it was just all I wanted.
And so when you look at that world, it's such a visual world that it does a really good job of sort of breaking the rules of what mainstream design or illustration art is. I would have to think that becomes a massive turning point, right? In the way that you start to see the world of advertising and design, and the way that you put your own projects together. I
think I've always been pretty messy, and I can't sit still for a long time. I'd rather rip something up and mush it together and say that so I feel I've always kind of had that way of thinking, but it all kind of clicked and came together as soon as I started skating. It just made sense. It was what I was where I was supposed to be and what I was supposed to do.
So when you get into skateboarding, one of the things that I found that was really freeing for me is that I always hated team sports. I always felt like team sports brought out the worst in people. And I guess especially when you're young and you're doing sports in elementary to middle school years, because there's probably a couple of kids that have God-given talent to hit a ball or to be good at whatever the sport is. But then there's me, the kid that doesn't have that talent, that doesn't have eye-hand coordination. And so it's always this big gap between a guy who can he's maturing faster and he can hit a home run, and a guy that can't quite figure out the speed of the baseball and when to swing the bat and hit it, you know? Mm-hmm. So it's like every time you mess up, you already feel like a loser because you can't do what the other kids can do. But then it's just rubbed in your face over and over again. What an epic loser that you are. Yeah. And just in the neighborhood when, you know, a pickup game of football would happen or whatever, it just would take a nice day in the neighborhood into this testosterone-driven fight of run harder, be there. If I throw the ball, show up. Yeah. And I think the thing that I love most when I found skateboarding is all of that dissolved and it went away. I'd found something, and this would be the story of the entire rest of my life. I found something where it was me against me. And I love that every day I could measure my own progress against my progress that day. And if you could ollie over 2 boards, go for it. Right now I'm working on just getting it over 1, you know? And I love that feeling of personal empowerment on a personal project. So with you finding it later in life and having to go over some weird cultural hurdles to get there, mm-hmm. how did it start to affect your self-confidence? Because you're already out of high school. You've already gone through sort of some of the weirder adolescent stages. Mm-hmm. You're an early 20-something that's sort of diving into a whole new world. I would have to think that this had to affect just the sport alone affects personal confidence.
It was a journey.
Yeah. So, I mean, just going to the park that first day, that's a lot of self-confidence.
Even today. Yeah.
If we go to the park right now today and skate after this, you still get a little nervous walking up?
Yeah.
Me too. Because I'm old and I'm not as good as I used to be. But my intimidation is that, these little shits are going to look at me and not think that I'm very good. But mm-hmm. I have new set of rules in my 40s at skateboarding. Hey friends, I hope you're enjoying today's interview with Elise Crigar. Real quick, I want to tell you that our friends over at jackprints.com, they've got fantastic deals this month of November for stickers for you. And I want to just break this one little tidbit down to you. That if you keep your stickers in the same colors and you keep them on the same shape, so let's say you got a good 4-color design that is a circle, did you know that you can mix up the design per run? So if you're doing, 100, 200 stickers, but you have 8 different designs that fit into the same color and the same shape, you can run them all on one order. So for a minimal amount of money, you could come up with a sticker pack, you could come up with a great theme, or an amazing campaign that you're going to send out to future clients or clients that you worked with this year. Head over to jackprints.com/circle of trust, get a sticker order going today, tell them that you listen to the show, tell them that you love AID, and they'll work with you to figure out the best way to build whatever it is that you're trying to build and the most affordable way to do it. It's jackprints.com/circle of trust. Get a sticker order going today. They're on sale this entire month. And always free shipping. What goes through your head if we go to the park today?
Being that a lot of these parks around here are new to me, so I think that it would be kind of why, like if I go home to my home park, I definitely feel more comfortable. But I don't know, like it's, you just, people look at you, it's like, I know what you're thinking, like you're going to judge me and like see what I can do, and I'll drop in and do an axle stall and like you'll be impressed, but like really that's not even like I can do more than that, just like give me an hour. I don't know, it just like all this shit, like, and today maybe it's not as bad, but I guess it just depends on the people that are there, but a lot of the times, yeah. See, I think that, and I'm just throwing an idea at the wall, if I was at the skate park today and you showed up, I would 100% pay attention to you and I would stare at you. But it wouldn't be like, who does she think she is? It wouldn't be like a freak show. I would just be like, oh my God, that's fucking awesome. And I guess in a weird way, that is discrimination because I'm singling you out. But I'm doing it from a perspective of love and admiration of like, that's amazing that that's happening because I remember when it didn't. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's probably the same as somebody being like, it's so cool, we can all now drink from the same water fountain. You know what I mean? Like society just moves on and hopefully it moves forward, even though it seems like we might be paused at the moment. Mm-hmm. But how did it affect your self-confidence in those early years when you first got into it? Did you find that you were more
outward, that you were able to be more outwardly approach others, or did you find more confidence in your artwork? Like, this had to affect you in other ways than just, I can now walk up to the skate park and feel kind of cool.
So yeah, I mean, I had just moved. I was starting college, like moving into college, like living in a dorm. Like that's like an experience in itself. But
that I'll never have. But go
ahead. I had skateboarding, and yeah, it gave me confidence because, you know, if there was a group of girls that, you know, they're probably lame anyways, but you know, I knew that like I could skate and I could drop in and they couldn't. So it did give me confidence, but you know, it gave me another journey too. When I first started skating, you know, like you said, like I got a lot of attention, and it was just because I was a girl. And
how's that make you feel? Honestly.
Yeah. In the beginning, like, you know, I was posted on Thrasher, I was posted on Hall Me, and that attention that I was given just because I was a girl, it wasn't positive. And, you know, I got a ton of Instagram followers and stuff like that. And it put me in this position of, you know, who am I? What do I want to do with this? Like, I was given a power, I was given all these eyes, and, you know, I was given a name, and I had a choice, you know, like, do I want to, you know, take my clothes off and like keep getting a bunch of followers and like,
did anybody ask you to do that?
Be the girl that's like hot and skates, like, or like, what do I want to do with this?
But did anybody ask you to do that?
When Instagram was started, that was a great way to bump up your numbers.
But that was something you debated yourself. Nobody ever came up to you and said, hey, can you like wear this bikini and ride this skateboard and we'll give you money or anything like that?
I would get some asks like that. Yeah.
So people would actively come at you and sexualize you.
Right. Yeah, totally.
That sucks.
And, you know, I was in college, which is a time in your life that you're figuring out who you are and what the heck you want to do and who you want to be and what you want to say. And, you know, people definitely, you know, judged me like, oh, like she just gets all this attention because she's hot and she skates, and like, but does she even really skate that good? Long story short, I feel like I figured myself out, and, you know, to this day, like I want to use the voice that I have and the numbers that I have and everything to empower girls for the right reason.
Is that a real thing though, where me and you, let's pretend that we're the same age, and God, I wish I was, but let's pretend that, you know, guy goes to skate park, who gives a fuck? You're one of 100. Girl goes to the skate park, it's a big deal. You get that extra attention. You end up in Thrasher. You know how I got in Thrasher? I had to become like the MC of a music festival, and I was in my mid-20s, and I was like, fuck, I finally made it into Thrasher. I wish I was on a skateboard, but I finally made it into Thrasher. Like, in a way, one would say that it's easier for you.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on the message that, you know, I feel like it'd be really I feel like it'd be easier, or it is easier sometimes, like to, you know, get more Instagram followers and more eyes on you and stuff like that. Like if you skate in short shorts and your butt's hanging out. But if you're preaching a message of, you know, equality and empowering girls and stuff like that, it might be a little bit harder. It might take a little bit longer, but like that's the way that I'd rather do it. So it's I don't know.
I mean, your Instagram account is amazing. It's like California fantasy, you know. It's like it always looks like the sun is setting somehow or another. I don't know how you pull that gimmick off. It's like all these women who are, you know, obviously attractive and very stylized, but it's not about that. I look at it and I see the lifestyle and the promise that is skateboarding in California. And I never have looked at any of those photos going, you know what this photo's missing is an ass cheek hanging out. Like I've never looked at it and saw it that way.
Good.
Like I look at it and I see it as this beautiful moment. And it's fascinating to me that you would feel the pressure that, oh, if I show a little bit more skin here, this goes even higher. But you're absolutely right in that it would go higher, but what are you actually gaining? You know what I mean? Like those people aren't online with your message.
Don't want them.
Yeah, don't need them. So when you get into that world and you're sort of, you know, you ended up in Thrasher and you are finding this extra attention because you're a girl, how was there ever a moment, because everybody loves attention somehow or another, you like it. Maybe you don't. But was there ever a little bit of a lost period where you actually, because it would be hard for me to think that the day that this happened, you're like, I need to turn this into female empowerment. Was there maybe a week or a day where it went to your head a little bit and you're like, huh, I'm the hot chick that skateboards?
Yeah, that's college. It took definitely a couple months, a while. I was finding myself, figuring myself out.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you didn't just come to this realization like a bolt of lightning the first day.
Not that smart and put together, no.
So how long was that like sort of period where you're different than you are now?
Maybe a couple months or a year.
Yeah. Was that a good time?
I don't know. Some of it was. I mean, it was a journey. It was an experience. It taught me so much, and it definitely like helped me be who I am. So like I don't, I can't regret it,
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't be. I don't know if I'd be doing this if it didn't happen.
I mean, there are moments in my life that I regret it because I was a shitty person. But then again, I don't regret it because it taught me how to be a better person.
Right, yeah.
And, I was a guy that was literally the least most popular dude in my high school, and I got kicked out for fighting. And then I went to a new school in a new city, and I was the most popular guy in my high school. And I went from girls thinking I was like, a virus to being the most sought after guy in my high school. That year, I was a complete fucking dickhead. 100% dickhead.
Yeah.
Because it all went my way, and maybe went my way a little bit too fast. And I was used to being an outsider. I was not used to being popular. And I accidentally burnt through a lot of people really, really quickly.
Yeah.
But after a couple things go the wrong way and you realize there's consequences to your actions, it really quickly started to frame better decision making.
Yeah.
But I would never lose that reputation. Never lose that. You do some bad things and it gets around, and when I say bad things, like I never did anything illegal or against anybody's will. I want to get that out on the record. It was just like, you have a lot of girls that are interested in you and you play them all against each other. doesn't work out well for your reputation. But I can kind of understand.
Yeah.
Because I was the hot chick once. As disgusting as that may seem to you right now, I was a hot chick once. I just burnt bridges. Yeah. You know what I mean? I was like fucking horrible. But I was a guy who was lonely. My mom abandoned me. Like, I just wanted female attention. And if you weren't around, then it was like the world didn't exist. And who's next in my space, right? And I'm not proud of it. And, I'm a faithful guy of a 16-year relationship right now. So it took me a journey to get here, but there were those wake up moments of fuck, you can't do this to people. Mm-hmm. You can't burn through people. So I hit like some social lows that made me change. Yeah. Was there a moment that you hit where you're like, maybe I should turn this into empowerment and not do what I've done for the last year?
Totally. Like on a personal side, basically from what you just said, I had met my boyfriend Alex now, and it was a relationship.
Who has great hair.
Yeah. So that relationship at first, I needed to take it seriously and not let it go. So that was a fuck up that I fixed. And that was a big turnaround moment to start working on myself. Mm. And I had kept skating after that and just like working on myself. So I think those two things put together started setting me up for bigger projects and stuff like that. Isn't
it weird that sometimes to fix ourselves, we have to almost lose somebody else?
Yeah.
Like, hey, I've been a bad person, but I can pivot here. I can change. Isn't it like, I've always found that interesting to me that sometimes like you can't, you're not willing or you don't want to save yourself until you realize that you're going to lose somebody that's important to you. And then that's the moment that you pivot around. By the way, when I told her my senior year in high school, the look of disgust that she gave me was fucking amazing.
I'm good with facial expressions.
Oh, and it's all on the GoPro. Like, this is 3, 2, 1. Here's a woman looking at you like you're a complete piece of shit. I'll just watch that on a loop tonight and be like, oh, let this be your eye of the tiger to be a better person. So how bad did it get that you almost lost your boyfriend?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, like, if there was this moment in the road, like, what were you doing wrong that you had to overcome? Like, for me, it was like I had to realize that you have to be faithful to people. Your word has to be your bond. And just because another girl shows up doesn't mean that you have to, like, oh, well, I'm doing this now. Like, what was your sort of crossroad?
Yeah, I mean, just being a legitimate partner and like being faithful, but then also how I presented myself and was one of the biggest things, especially, you know, like I said, I had gotten all of that attention from just being a girl that skates, and it was really just about how I presented myself to others and what I was saying and doing. And yeah.
So you realize that people are going to treat you based on the way that you sort of treat yourself, and that you have to almost display, like, there's a certain amount of class that I'm displaying, and there's a certain amount of respect I'm giving, and I want all of that back.
Yeah, just having respect, like, for my, like, realize that I needed to have more respect for myself and more respect for the relationship that I was in.
So when you say more respect for yourself, did you slide down the butt cheeks out in the photo part of your skateboarding career, or are we not talking about that?
What do you mean? Wait, did I slide?
No, I'm just saying, like, when you said you need to respect yourself and get into the moment of empowerment, like, I'm trying to realize, was there a moment where you weren't respecting yourself?
I was just kind of doing whatever I wanted. I mean, like, yeah, my shorts might have been a little too short, but like, I didn't care.
There was
like,
a butt cheek out. We just got to get that on the record.
Like, I was just literally doing like whatever the fuck I wanted.
Got it.
Like, I was skating. Like, it was all about me. Like, I was in college. Like, just, it was all about me.
Yeah, I know that. I know that year. The all about me year.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember when my flower bloomed. I was the same way. I'm like, it's all about me, until it was all about destruction, because I was a bad version of me. So when you sort of get past that and you get into the idea of, I got a platform here. People do pay attention to me because I'm a woman. There's a certain way I should respect myself and make others respect me in return. What were some of the first steps that you remember taking to be like, I want to proactively use this for good?
Yeah. So, you know, all the background I had in shooting photos and making art and stuff like that, I just, you know, I started wanting to photograph girls and skating because that's what I loved to do. And I've had few friends that did it, but the few that I had, like, I just wanted to be with them and make cool stuff, make cool art.
Your Instagram account makes it look like there's just an army of blonde-headed ladies that are rad at skating that you can just go, like, your Instagram account makes it look like I could just go throw a rock and be like, oh, sorry, I hit you on the skateboard, young lady. Sorry, I was just throwing a rock. I didn't know you'd be there on the other side of it. How long did it take you to meet this group of women that you could take photos of?
So back home in Florida, there wasn't that many girls, and you know, I kind of just made it my mission to set out and be like, oh, like, you surf, but I bet you can skate too. Like, would you want to come skate with me? Like, yeah. And, you know, like, let's shoot photos. Like, you have rad style. And there definitely wasn't as many girls back home in Florida that skated, but there was a lot that would surf who could do it too. And I would just try to collect them and know them. And yeah. So
you were actively trolling around the internet looking for women that you thought either did skateboard or could be a potential skateboarder.
Oh yeah, side hustle.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So did that lead you into the forensics that got you It's Not About Pretty?
Yeah, definitely. I had graduated college. I was working full time.
Doing?
I worked, my first job for 2 years out of college was for a magazine. I was a head photographer for a magazine, and then I also did some social media.
And Void magazine. What was called what?
Void magazine.
Void magazine. What's Void magazine about?
It is North Florida culture and lifestyle.
Is it still around?
Yes.
Oh, congratulations, Void magazine. Proud of you. So you're working in there. So you're in the media. You're doing photography and graphic design. Congratulations. Did you graduate college?
Yes.
For?
Graphic design and fine art, yeah.
All right. So you're actively doing all this. Were you able to tell the people at Void, like, hey, let's get some female empowerment in here. Let's get some girls on some skateboards or surfboards. So
it's, funny. They actually reached out to me to skate in a shoot that they were doing. They wanted me to be a skater for a shoot. So I, showed up, skated in the shoot, was featured in the magazine. And after seeing them, seeing all the shoot go down and everything, I was like, I could do this.
Yeah, of
course.
Like,
this looks fun. Like, I need a job. I just graduated and it worked out.
When you were working in the publishing industry and you're doing that sort of work, was there ever a moment where you had to tell the people you worked with or a client or whomever, like, I think that it's fine with the sweatshirt on. It doesn't need to come off.
Yes.
Yeah. So you actually, everything that you'd gone through in your personal life, you had to stand up for it in the professional realm.
I did. And sometimes it was a battle because,
Yeah.
you need money to print
Yeah.
pages. But
butt cheeks do sell items.
they do. And it was an awesome, that team was awesome. They were like family, and they accepted my voice and were open to it. And
That's great.
I actually photographed or arranged to be photographed one of the first girl surfers on the swimsuit issue. So it wasn't a girl on a bar, it was a girl riding a wave selling the swimsuit. So that was
you mean
an awesome
a girl
moment for me.
actually doing something in a bathing suit other than just being like,
Surfing.
I'm
Yes.
so blonde. Wow.
It was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. And that's kind of how influence works, right? Like you fix yourself, you start to see the world a certain way, and then you become an ambassador for the way things should be done. And who knows what art directors or clients that you talk to, that it's the first time they're ever like, it does make sense that maybe a woman should be using the swimsuit for what it's intended for versus getting sand on her thighs laying on the beach. How long did that job run for?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
And so you landed the gig, It's Not About Pretty, which is the first ever book showcasing female skateboarding, correct?
Yes.
How did that come together?
So I have always been into old school skating, and just that California dream is
Pause. You say old school. Give me a timeline.
when it began.
All right. So 70s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All of that. Beautiful.
Because we were waiting for you to be like, like 93, 95.
No,
that real old wild shit. I was going to just like, all right, I'm packing up my shit. I'm going home.
No. Yeah. So
Okay.
that imagery of fantasy has always been in my head. And I found Cindy Whitehead. She was a pro skater in the 70s.
Yep.
And she was a girl. So those two things together,
She
I was
checked
just
the
like,
boxes.
I have to know this lady.
Yeah.
She has her own brand now to also be empowering girls in skateboarding.
What's the name of the brand?
Girl is not a 4-letter word.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I saw that in
Yeah.
your website.
Yeah. So I just reached out to her via Instagram and email, and I was just like, introduce myself, introduce my work. I would love to, know you, work with you, do anything. And about a week later, I was on my lunch break in the Target parking lot waiting for her to call me.
Nice. And when she called you, she said, hey, I'm working on a book and I'm looking for a designer, or hey, I'm thinking about doing a book. Would you want to work on it with me?
She didn't even say anything about the book. She just said, let me introduce myself. And she was like, let's start with this small project. I'll send you some product if you want to shoot a lookbook and design it for me. And that was the first thing that we did together.
Boom.
Yeah.
Look at you reaching out and getting your foot in the door. Isn't it wild how sometimes it's like, oh, I would love to do this thing. I wish I could do this thing. And then you just get the bravery one day just to send out a blind email. And
You
then the
have
next
to.
thing you know, like, oh, I'm now doing this thing.
Got to do it or
It's
it'll
wild.
never happen.
Absolutely. I agree with you. So how long did you guys work together before it evolved into It's Not About Pretty?
So the first project was probably a month or two. And then, after we had kind of worked together, she was just like, I have this idea. I want to make, I want to put this book together. Would you like to make it? And I was freaking terrified, but I could not say no. There's no
Terrified
way I
about
could say
laying out a book
all of it,
or the subject matter or working with her?
all of everything. Just scared.
Just scared of the
I
project.
wouldn't be good. You know what I mean? Like I went to school for design, but I was a photographer full time. Like I don't see myself as like the strongest, world's greatest designer by any means.
Answer off the top of your head very quickly. What's your favorite F-stop?
I don't know.
Trick question.
It depends on what I'm shooting.
Of course it does. Like, it would be adult to be like, F10. All right. So you're working with her. You're getting a working relationship. Take me back to the moment that she's like, hey, I got this idea for a book. Mm-hmm. What were you doing on the other side of that phone line?
I was laying on the living room floor with a piece of Almide ready to take notes. And in my head was screaming, no, no, no. And my voice. I was just like, yes, 100%, I'll do it. Anything, you know what I mean? And then after I got off the phone, I was just terrified, but I knew that I needed to do it. And whether that meant, you know, whatever way to figure it out, I had to do it.
Fuck books. So much work, endless amount of work.
Yeah.
I can understand that you were probably like, yo, I'm now partners with somebody who's a hero of mine. I'm now going to be a part of this like historic book that's the first of its kind. But oh shit, I got to do the work.
Yeah.
Like laying out a book, and you nailed it. I mean, the book it's a great, I've only ever looked at it, I didn't read it. But when you look at the book, you changed up the design often. It has lots of callbacks and sort of signatures to the different eras of advertising through the world of skateboarding. Like you use the proper textures and colors and framing and stuff. So it's a fun book in that you didn't just make a template and put photos in it. Like the book evolves page after page and you're always getting something different. Like it looks like looking at Thrasher or Transworld. Did I offend you? No,
that just makes it sound really nice. Yeah, I know. I think I'm happy with how it turned out. And it definitely, you know, I was working full time and then also doing photo shoots and then coming home and making a freaking books, which meant like, you know, that year for Christmas, like I didn't get my family one thing. Like I was just like, I just couldn't, like every bit of energy, but it was, you know, it was also worth it.
You got him a gift. It was called female empowerment. This is what I got for you. I'm just going to wrap myself up under the Christmas tree with my clothes on.
Right.
This is what I gave for you. I am an example of the future. So you work on the book. She writes it. It's sort of through her lens. Her husband's the photographer. Mm-hmm. Damn those men. They always get involved in everything and ruin it for us.
He's an awesome guy.
I don't believe it. Fake news. But you do the layout. Mm-hmm. And you send off the PDF. Yeah. After revisions, you finally sent off a PDF that was called Book Final 0101010101 Final 2. You send that file out. How long between that PDF goes out of your FTP till you get a book back at your house? She's counting on her fingers.
Like 4 or 3 months. It really wasn't that long.
4 or 3 months or 4 or 3 months? That answers either a year or 4 months.
January, like 3 months.
Okay, that's pretty quick.
Yeah.
So it shows up at the house.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't open it.
No, you were scared.
Yeah, I waited.
I know that feeling. I'm like, I'm gonna open it up. I'm gonna realize that I used the wrong black.
Oh, totally.
Or I'm gonna see a font substitution.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that fear. Once again, fuck books. But you opened it up one day, mm-hmm. and you looked at it, and that's an accomplishment as a designer, as a professional, but it's also an accomplishment as a woman. Like that's a real 360 experience in your life.
Yeah, it was crazy. Alex made me open it.
That's what a good spouse will do.
You got to open this. It's
yeah, a good partner will be like, come on, open the damn thing up.
But yeah,
Alex was probably like, I didn't see you for a year, and now you're not going to open it and look at it? Come on.
Yeah, seriously.
Get in there.
But yeah, once I had it, it was crazy. You know, Cindy is out here in California, and seems like everything's out here. And
yes, it is.
Once the book was here, you know, she had all these promotions and events, and I couldn't leave. I couldn't come out here. And, you know, I felt like I am in Florida with this thing. Like, what do I do with it? You know?
You moved to California. That's what you do.
Well, I couldn't at the time.
Yeah.
So
the book comes out, mm-hmm. How long until you move to California?
A year.
Okay. Man, you missed out on a really big year in your career.
Well, yeah. So the fact that I couldn't leave, I actually made like a huge skate event and everything to promote the book back home. So
I watched you on the chat. Experience. You think I didn't investigate you on the chat? Yeah. Hanging out with them, explaining them how skateboarding works.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Whenever you have to talk to civilians about skateboarding, it's like, well, a kick turn is when you have to explain like everything.
They like pulled photos from my Facebook of me with a surfboard. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's not wrong tool there, friends. Can you surf?
A little, a longboard. But
does a longboard make it easier?
It's fun, just cruisy.
I got to get out there. I got to do it, man.
Yeah.
I keep dragging my fucking heels.
It is fun.
I promised myself, I'm like, when you move to California, you will learn the sport that birthed the sport that you love. Like going into surfing is like going back in time and figuring out like, oh, somebody one day was like, we could do this on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
But, fucking lazy. I haven't done it yet. All right. So there's that year where there's PR events and your book's happening out here, but you're stuck in Florida. Did that start to get the wheels turning of like, how did you come up with the idea of moving to California?
Always had it.
Right there. I'm in the club with you, but I didn't feel like I was worthy of it.
Well, I felt like I needed to prepare so the job that I had after college for 2 years was perfect because I soaked up everything like a sponge, and I felt like I needed to work and be there and just gain experience. But it was like after the book was done, after that 2-year mark was done, I was very ready.
Yeah.
Felt very ready.
And then you were ready to move to California.
Mm-hmm.
And was your whole life ready to move to California? Like, was it a clean break? Was it an easy thing to do? Did you have to wrap up some loose ends? Like, how hard of a transition was it?
My dad was supportive. I mean, of course they missed me. But I mean, I was ready. I have always I tried to do like a ton of side projects, and had connected with, some skateboard companies and stuff out here. So I knew that it was all out here. I'd worked my ass off. I was ready to go.
Yeah. I had, I don't know. Well, I know why I have self-doubt, and it's all from the way that I was raised, but there was 2 things that I never felt that I was good enough for. And it was New York City and California. Like I always loved those 2 things, but I always felt like, yeah, but that's for people that are wealthier or more talented, or were just born with the dumb luck of being from those places.
Yeah.
And a big part of me moving to California was a big part of me being like, you know what, man, like you're not getting any younger, and you need to start validating some of these dreams and experiences that you wanted. And I came out here, and like I told you when I was setting up, like in my mind, I was from California before I ever lived here, and I've been here for 5 years, and I'm never leaving. I will be poor. I will live under an overpass in California before I decide, like, this will have to fall in the ocean, and hopefully I'll fall in with it. But if for whatever reason I'm a survivor of the big earthquake, I will not live in New Arizona or New California, which would be Arizona. Like, I will stay on this plot of land forever. I want to die here. To me, it's just brought out the best in living, and it's like every time I get on a plane now, I'm like, I don't really want to go where I'm going. I just want to go back home. I love it here. How has it been for you in your first year?
Yeah. Well, it's been like anything for the first time, I feel like it takes a little while, but
sure.
As far as, I love to work and I love to make things, and that's all here. So I can, if I'm ever, homesick or sad, either way, I just try every single weekend to fill it up with something to do and something to make. So that's been great. How
long did it take you to create that squad of ladies on your Instagram account that are always shredding quite stylishly?
Some of them I had actually already been following and connected with when I was back home, which is really cool. And meet one here, and there was another, just kind of be in the right place, and they're here. Yeah.
Would you say that you have a dozen female friends out here that skateboard, or more?
Maybe under a dozen.
I was rounding up.
I mean, a lot of the girls, sometimes I shoot girls that, just come in town, or, they're not from around here. Some of the times it's just like a meet them once and that might be it. But there's definitely a small handful that live around here that I can skate with regularly, which is awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So in that experience of being around, like you have the backdrop, which is California, the palm trees, the beach, the hills. I don't know how you always make it look like the sun's setting on you guys, but you have that, and then you have the people around you, right? Like you have all the pieces to tell this story, and in the way that you want to tell it. Do you feel like you've done a good job in your first year of like capturing the lifestyle and capturing the empowerment?
I think the beginning of the year was a little rocky. I worked, I did some, but it wasn't where I wanted to be. And I feel like coming into the end of summer and like where I'm at right now, I feel a lot better about the projects that I've been putting out, and I do feel better about the connections and stuff. I feel like it kind of was a little bit of a slow start.
I mean, moving across the country is not an easy thing. And I know that you guys did it together, which, makes it twice as easy to do it with somebody else and have one person that, that you belong to out here.
Yeah.
But you went away to college, but is this your first big move?
Yeah, I had only been to California twice before I moved here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that is a earth-shattering thing to do. And I can understand, has the first year been a little lonely at times?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What do you miss most about Florida?
It sounds crazy, but like it's hot and humid there, and I kind of miss that. Definitely miss rain and thunderstorm.
You're insane if you miss the Florida humidity.
Most of the rain, that's the biggest thing, like not having rain. And
Florida's wild. It can just rain at any given time and be over just as quick as it started. Like, I remember being in Florida before, and it's like, how is it raining on one side of the road and not the other?
Yeah,
and you can just be like, we're in the rain, we're out of the rain. Like it's a wild place that way. Hello, friends of the Circle of Trust and free listeners too. How are you? I hope you're enjoying this hangout with Elise. She was fantastic. Hanging out with her was fantastic. I went down to her home in the Oceanside area. Fantastic little quiet home with just rad skateboards and surfboards hanging all around the place, and just really, really good people. They took me to a taco place afterwards, and sweet, sweet tacos. Sweet tacos. God, I could go for some right now, and it's not even Taco Tuesday. You need out of the room, JPEG? Fucking cats. Coming up in part 2 of today's episode, we will be talking all about a proposal that I have for her, a pod proposal. Damn it, can't get it out right. We talk about that. We also talk about the world more of skateboarding, what drew her to the sport, what she's learned from the sport. And then we get into an interesting discussion. I kind of talked about in my monologue why so many young women say, I can't. Where is that being programmed in? Who are they hearing that from? And as parents, as future leaders, and as just citizens, what can we do to the young ladies around us to reprogram that it's, why can't I? Of course I can. That is the message that we need to teach to our young women. That's a message we really need to teach to everybody. Just everybody was told, guess what? You could do whatever the hell you want. Nobody's going to stand in your way. And in fact, they're going to support you while you do it. It would be a much better place for you and me. Sign up today at AID.network. Become a member of the Circle of Trust. I think we got over a half hour, 40 more minutes of hanging out with Elise on the show. And you'll want to hear my podposal when I ask her, hey, I got a plan. What do you think about this? How does it work for you? Can we make it happen? I want to thank Elise so much for being on the show, for being a member of the Circle of Trust, and for reaching out to me. I was very excited to go into her world. And there's this thing that also happens, when you get older, is that you see things come back around. And I love the origins of skateboarding, when it was sidewalk surfing, hamburger toes out there barefoot. I love that vibe of where just riding with style is enough. You don't have to flip it. You don't have to kick it. You don't have to go over the top of a curb. You don't have to soar through the air. We're just literally, you get back to the basics of just riding, just gliding, and just doing it with all the style that you can. And that's what I love about when her photos pop up in my Instagram, because it just takes me back to Stacy Peralta and the old school days when style was all that mattered. And it wasn't how technical you were or how tough you were. It was just about getting out, riding, and having fun, and taking back the ocean. Not everybody has an ocean down their street. I mean, I do now, but I didn't always when I grew up in Kentucky. So the sidewalk surfing vibe, I'm just so excited to see this type of style. Skateboarding as an art form is still alive. Don't forget, grab a copy of It's Not About Pretty. Head over to Elise's website and check out her newest project, which is She Is More. Keep listening to this show to find more about that, and keep listening by becoming a member of the Circle of Trust. Sign up today at AID.network, just like your bud, Elise did. Let's get into it. Let's get started with part 2. I'll give you a teaser, but you got to be a member of Circle of Trust to hear the whole journey. All right, are you ready? Let's drop in. You have a new project that you're working on, which to me, it makes a lot of sense on who you are, who you've been, and coming out here. It's called She Is More. And this is something that's relatively new that you've been releasing over the last couple of weeks. What was the idea that led to She Is More? And by the way, backtrack just a second. It's Not About Pretty is available in bookstores or where books are sold. And you should grab it. And it would be a great thing to own, an even better thing to give to a young girl.
Yes.
That's what
Especially
it's meant for.
Amazon.
Yeah. So, okay, let's move forward. She Is More. This is your own project. What was the idea that led you to She Is More?
Right. So when I said the first couple months here were a little rocky, one of the things was, I was trying to, plan shoots and meet people and continue to make content and, I go through find these people on Instagram or through friends and ask to shoot with them and, what I normally do. And, some of those experiences, they weren't good.
How were they bad?
Not to say that they were bad, but I would meet these people and, especially ones on Instagram, and it's Instagram. So, it's the best of the best. And the experience shooting with them, I'm like, this is you, really? Some of them, I really just didn't even like. Oh,
you saw women on Instagram that were from the sport.
Right.
And you're like, hey, we should hook up and do this. And then you went there and you realized how much of it was put on for Instagram.
Exactly.
Oh, bro. Let me fill you in on a little something. I come from the music industry.
Yeah.
The worst thing you can ever do is meet a band that you really love, because it will break it for you. Yeah. I know so many complete fucking phonies and fakes that they go out on that stage. Oh, we love you guys. Thank you so much. And they're the biggest fucking hypocrites in the world. And to me, it is fucking disgusting, because if I'm in a bad mood, I'm just in a bad mood on the show. If I don't like something, I just say it. If somebody I respect does something that I don't like, I don't mind saying it, because it doesn't mean that I hate them. I cannot stand being a phony and being a fake. Whatever. But people that profit off of it and have a different identity, and then they find success through playing this fucking character, unless it's WWE and it's a play that exists in real time, I despise it. I fucking hate people that put it on for their followers and I hope my followers don't see me doing this. In my mind, there could be a camera on me 23 hours and 45 minutes a day. 15 minutes when I go private browsing mode. I prefer for nobody to see me. But the rest of the time, I'm totally cool with every decision I make being in front of anybody.
Yeah.
And you go out and you meet people and you're like, you're a fucking fake. This is a curated personality and you're bullshit.
Yeah, disgusting. And
you're feeling that way about me now, I can tell.
Definitely not. But it definitely just, and everyone knows that that's how it is. It's common these days, but it affected me, and I'm like, what am I, doing? I'm supposed to be out here. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying, and it just wasn't feeling good. And what's the point? It just kind of put me in a funk for sure.
I do know that when I first came out here, you kind of, you don't really have your crew figured out, and you just kind of hang out with whoever's available. And I do remember being met some pretty wild people in LA. When you go to a party and the first thing anybody says is, so what do you do? It's not even where do you live. It's immediately, let me figure out how I respect you based on what your occupation or your level is. And that took a little bit to get used to. But now I'm just when I met your boyfriend, I was like, so what do you do? So it's I'm no better than the rest now. So as you were going through this experience of realizing that not everybody is doing it the way that you are, I always found that it would be, if I did the podcast as a character, Johnny Positivity. Hey guys, just want to tell you that if you follow your dreams and you work really hard, it's going to happen for you. And congratulations, today you're you. And that's the most beautiful person you can be. I just figured out if I was a character, it'd be so exhausting to go, oh, Trump accidentally won the election. What does my character think about that?
Yeah.
I don't want to live my life that way.
Yeah.
I want to be this is happening. I'm a person that always has an opinion about everything. Boom. There's my opinion. I've always said that I fucking hate Jonah Hill. He's always seemed like a Hollywood phony and a fake to me. He made possibly the greatest movie I've ever seen. Definitely the greatest movie I've ever seen about skateboarding. And I can just be dude, Jonah Hill killed it. And I'm never going to talk shit about him again, because you make that one movie and now you have my respect. but I know I'll still talk shit about them again because my opinions are my opinions.
Yeah.
And I'm so fascinated at people that don't want to show who they really are, because I feel like you're going to get discovered at some point.
Yeah, the whole thing is can definitely mess with your mind, but I mean, like, you're looking at it every day. Like, we're all in it, whether you want to be or not. So.
And by the way, don't forget, if you're listening to this, hashtag smash like, don't forget to follow, don't forget to subscribe. I hate that shit so much. Like, people aren't dumb. They know where the buttons are.
Yeah.
They know how it fucking works. Like, every video doesn't have to explain to you, like, hey guys, if you want to see my next Photoshop tutorial, make sure you hit that bell button so you can get fuck off, dude. Get out of here. All right. So you end up being like, all right, I got to kind of evaluate this. Mm-hmm. But I'm assuming that you did meet some people that were genuine, which then started to make you realize,
Exactly.
okay, there's two sides of this coin.
Yep.
There's people that are phonies for the gram, pieces of shit, and then there's people that are legitimate,
Right.
and that motivated you to,
to highlight them. And it was a time, like, in that moment with those people where everything was worth it. Like, this is why I came here. Like, this is why I'm lonely sometimes, but it's worth it. You know, I'm climbing into this really awesome ditch and, like, watching a girl air over it on a freaking BMX bike. Like, amazing.
that is amazing.
Isn't it?
I mean, it's the farthest thing from what I could imagine reality being when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And you know, I always say that I dreamt of girls like you my whole life. And it was literally, I dreamt of being around people that would just do what they want to do and not feel held back from it. And just to have sport of skateboarding or BMX just be like a universal thing, that it would have been nice to have a female perspective or a female friend. And I'm not talking about dating or making out, just like to have like a good girlfriend that also skated, you know, because I've always loved having women in my life and being around, you know, good friends that are girls. And it's a different vibe. It's a different part of us. And I've just always enjoyed it. And I always just hated that there was a firewall of like, well, this is what guys do and this is what girls do. I know there are some wired differences between the two, but it just always made me mad and upset that there were just some things where it's like, well, only guys can be in bands and only guys can skateboard. It's like, but what if it wasn't that way? Mm-hmm. Like, wouldn't it be rad if it could just all be mixed up and you could get a different perspective on it? And I don't know, like, I really have admired what you've done with your Instagram and sort of this world that you're showing. I hope that that's the world that my nieces see, you know, and that they envision themselves in that photo and not just go, oh, those girls are so lucky, but they see themselves as, I want to be one of those lucky girls. Like, I hope that's the way that they see it.
Totally.
So my question for you is this. You started to do She Is More, where you took portraits, you interviewed people that you feel like are more than just the Instagram account, that they're good people, solid leaders that represent female empowerment through extreme sports, because that is, or action sports, because that's your sort of genre in this world that you love the most. So here's the thing with Adventures in Design. I've always claimed that the podcast was sexy, but not sexist. Big difference. And you know the difference. And I'm going to have to tell you that with She Is More, you've been very sexist. And I can't allow that on my podcast because you have gone around and you've only interviewed women.
I know. I've heard that from someone else.
And I want to tell you, he is more. And he is sitting across from you. And he has a proposal. What I would love to do, and I'm asking you this right now, she has no idea what I'm getting ready to say. She's like, what the fuck's happening? What if we did She Is More week on Adventures in Design? And you and I sit down and we did podcast with all of these women that you found that are ambassadors of the sport, but ambassadors of being a strong woman and showing other females that the BMX, the skateboard, the surfboard, the snowboard, like it's for whoever has the fucking balls to go down the other side of it. How do you like that proposal? Thank you for listening to Adventures in Design podcast. To hear part 2 of today's episode, visit adventuresin.design. Click where it says Circle of Trust and help support the only daily talk show designed for creative professionals just like you. Thank you for listening. Good day and good design.